They are the toughest of the tough special forces in the German Bundeswehr. Their mission? To fight behind enemy lines in the event of an emergency. Elite soldiers who, if necessary, must go through hell.
But the path to get there is already hellish. They push themselves for weeks, constantly on the verge of collapse.
The war in the Hindu Kush has suddenly turned the peacekeeping force into a combat army, with all the consequences of a real combat mission. And there, they fight not only against themselves, but also against an enemy determined to do anything. Some of them won't make it back home.
During the training, they must explore their limits and sometimes go far beyond them.
In the shadow of the Allgäu Alps lies the training center for elite soldiers, the Airborne and Air Transport School in Altenstadt. The training has increasingly been adapted to real-world operational conditions. Those who enroll here usually already have combat experience. Many are already part of special forces units of the Bundeswehr.
I am Staff Sergeant Stefan Kudela. For the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be your group leader, at least for the most of you. It can always happen that someone gets injured and needs to be replaced. Are your pockets empty? Pens, pencils, sharp objects? Everything must be emptied. If yes, then head immediately to the start.
It begins with the aptitude test. In 2 minutes and 15 seconds, the soldiers must overcome numerous obstacles. Those who fail have no chance of passing the lone fighter training course. Many of the men have specifically trained for this test. They are fit and confident.
The second part of the entrance test. A cross-country run in full gear and with a backpack.
Nächster Abschnitt, 3000 Meter Geländelauf. Dazu Anzug herstellen, Rucksack, 10 Kilo, ohne Feldmütze, ohne Koppel. Fragen, Ausführung. 30 Sekunden. Auf die Plätze, fertig, los!
For 3,000 meters, the soldiers have 19 minutes. By comparison, the world record for the 3,000-meter steeplechase is just under 8 minutes.
Physical fitness is an absolute prerequisite to complete the training successfully.
I will definitely reach the point where my inner, weaker self tells me to stop. We end this here. But then I have to fight against it and tell myself to keep going and that I will push through it.
Michael Mengemann and his comrades will not only be pushed to their physical limits over the next 4 weeks. In order to withstand the psychological pressures during deployment, they are also subjected to extreme emotional stress during their training. For the economist and father of a young daughter, this is not a problem.
My will is very strong, hopefully. I mean, it can always happen that something goes wrong, that I overestimate myself, that I'm not as fit as I thought, but that's just how it is.
The first hurdle is cleared, but it continues immediately and the men don't know if they have met the standard.
We don't know our times yet, but you have a feeling.
Wir haben 6 Minuten, um in Inspektion zu kommen. So, mach Marsch bereit, ja? Aufstellen.
There's 7 men who have not passed the entrance test. You will get another chance on Friday. If you don't make use of it, you have no chance of passing the course. This means no certificate and obviously no badge. Accordingly, pick up the pace.
Black, red, and gold in the Hindu Kush. Since reunification, German soldiers have increasingly taken on roles in international conflicts. It was supposed to be a stabilization mission, but it turned into war.
I always wanted to go to the Bundeswehr. So I have decided on this career, but mainly to help people. I think you can do this best in the Bundeswehr.
Who is helping whom in Afghanistan? Why and how? It is also confusing for the German paratroopers. Who is friend and who is foe often only becomes clear when the bullets start flying.
It remains as it was. As long as no one shoots us, we don't shoot them either. So first and foremost, clear, identifiable by hostile behavior.
These soldiers from Lower Saxony patrol together with Afghans and Belgians in a country that has been at war for centuries.
Many learned their craft of war in the Allgäu. The second day of the commando course begins at 4:45 a.m. The aspiring elite soldiers must complete an orientation march. In the darkness, they pack their backpacks. What goes in the backpack is predefined.
The marching gear, backpack, vest, and rifle weighs around 30 kilograms. Map and compass, as always.
I expect good results. It's an exam grade that is given, which is part of the course's end grade. So one should definitely do well today. I'm doing well so far. It's still working out.
The group is already incomplete on the second day. 9 men are missing.
All good. I'm just a little frustrated with the 4 of my comrades who left.
Once everything is packed, the soldiers are dropped off by bus in unfamiliar terrain. From there, each must find their way back to the barracks on their own. But not everyone boards the bus. 2 of the men who were highly motivated just the day prior are heading home today.
Entweder am Bein irgendwas oder Knieprobleme.
I had some knee problems before. I was hoping it would get better. And now I felt it again yesterday. It is what it is. Performance issues for me. It's just not enough for this course.
Only the tough make it through.
It is only logical to step back if you realize it won't work out, either the attitude or physical condition, because these positions are being blocked for the people who would love to join but can't, simply because there are others less motivated than them. So if they just stayed at home to begin with, the situation would be better.
The remaining course participants must demonstrate scout-like qualities on the second day of training, however, against the clock. The soldiers have 10 hours. Each is given their own route on which they must find 6 points. Their only tools are a sketch drawn shortly before departure, a map excerpt, and a compass.
Ich muss vor an dem Punkt und dann gehe ich mit Marschkompasszahl irgendwas mit 50 gehe ich dann vorne nach rechts weg.
Ich muss einfach noch runter und dann links im Wald rein, immer geradeaus.
Ja.
Also ich gebe jetzt Gas, ne?
Alles klar, ich auch. Wir sehen uns, ja? Ciao.
What looks like a pleasant mountain hike quickly turns into a sweaty ordeal with 30 kilograms of marching gear, especially under time pressure. Breaks and picnics are not part of the plan.
Now that we know the way, there's only one thing left to do. Fire away.
Jetzt gibt's nur noch Vollgas und völlig egal. Nützt nichts.
In addition to speed, good orientation in the terrain is particularly important. Tiller gets lost right at the beginning and has to retrace his steps. The detour costs him energy and a lot of time.
It takes the trained neon sign maker nearly an hour to find his first checkpoint.
Found it. I did take a wrong turn for 2 kilometers, but that's how it goes. You just have to backtrack a bit again.
A leisurely outing can quickly turn into a nerve-wracking experience. First Lieutenant Langfeld has a different problem. The first orientation marker is missing. The sign that should be on the tree according to the map is gone. Now, good advice is hard to come by.
According to orders, we were supposed to leave a report slip to show that we were there, but the checkpoint was missing. And after a longer search, I noticed that 3 others had already been there. This means it's quite likely that the checkpoint was indeed missing. The good news is that with the time I'm finishing in, it should be a 1. Had I missed the checkpoint, it would be a 4.
To ensure no one cheats, the instructors patrol the forest. The sweeper vehicle is absolutely necessary, because even though the soldiers are taught how to use maps and compasses during basic training, many comrades are still overwhelmed by it, according to Master Sergeant Saxa.
It's always the same, whether there are 40, 60, or just 5 course participants. It always goes beyond the initial time because someone is always missing.
Master Sergeant Saxa chose the toughest path during his own training. A lone fighter. He took a course with the French Foreign Legion in the jungles of French Guiana. His main battle was against himself.
The goal of this course is to develop one's determination for endurance and train it accordingly. It does hurt. It hurts often. That's completely normal.
Comrade Tiller trained for this course for 3 months and lost 10 kilograms. His physical fitness is now paying off for the 26-year-old. After 3.5 hours, the last checkpoint is already in sight.
It's slowly getting exhausting. But now I've finally found the last checkpoint. Now I just have to walk back to the barracks, and I'm very relieved about that. Because it's really getting tough, my feet hurt, the back hurts a little too. But we go on now.
Ich muss mal gucken, wo es lang geht. Hier hoch. Geradeaus. Dritte rechts.
Now he picks up the pace one last time. There are still about 4 kilometers until he reaches the barracks.
The most challenging part was actually the stretch from the last checkpoint to here. Because you know, there's nothing else left for you to look for, so you just have to continue walking, and that was quite demotivating.
Meanwhile, instructor Sebastian Saxa has to give a motivational boost to the perseverance of some comrades. Near the barracks, he encounters a course participant from the Netherlands who apparently lacks the right attitude.
Wie ist die Lage? Bitte? Wie sieht's aus? Haben Sie alle Punkte gefunden?
Nein, ich habe eine nicht.
Welchen?
Die letzte für mich hier. Und ich schaffe das nicht in die Zeit.
Läufernummer?
Laufnummer 9.
The Dutchman skipped a checkpoint. He doesn't think it's a big deal and just wants to head back to the barracks.
Wo vermuten Sie Ihren Punkt im Gelände?
2,5 Kilometer diesen Tag.
1500.
Dann ist etwas nicht korrekt.
Wo ist Ihr Punkt auf der Karte?
Hier.
Korrekt. Erreichen.
Master Sergeant Saxe sends him back. For the Dutchman, this means an extra 3-kilometer loop.
This isn't supposed to be the goal. Working after minimal principles and being satisfied with unfinished assignments, this shouldn't be the solution to a lone fighter course.
Meanwhile, First Lieutenant Langfeld reaches the barracks. It took him only 4.5 hours. The remaining question is whether the missing checkpoint will be accepted.
Dann jetzt links von Ihnen an der Flipchart stehen die weiteren Maßnahmen, Munition wird abgegeben über den Moonguard, ja, und dann nachbereitet. Wenn Fragen sind, wir sind vor Ort. In Ordnung. Korridor.
His worries turn out to be unfounded. He receives feedback immediately. For the lieutenant, this means turning in ammunition, cleaning the weapon, and taking a shower. The work is over for now. For his comrades, however, things are slowly getting tight.
The faster they work, the longer their break.
The Dutchman, too, has now found his way back to the right path.
Haben Sie einen Punkt gefunden? Sehr gut. Dann war es doch gar nicht so schwierig, oder? Aufgeben war noch nie eine Möglichkeit.
It takes a full 12 hours until the last of the aspiring commando soldiers reach the barracks in Altenstadt. Whether their performance was sufficient is still uncertain. Only the evaluation of the tracking sheets will reveal who passed the test and who will have to leave the course early.
So, with about a 2-hour delay because some were late, everyone is now back here and safe, except for one who was actually injured. We had to get him back here. He fell, so his knee was swollen. We have another one who wanted to see a doctor, but we have to wait and see how his situation unfolds.
One of the special demands on elite soldiers is conducting operations deep in enemy territory. They are expected to gain the necessary skills here. The unit receives its first combat mission. Their scenario: the soldiers have survived an attack. Now the enemy is hunting down the scattered unit.
Stärke 21, richtig? Richtig. So, guten Morgen, Hörsaal 19.
Only those who are faster than the enemy and leave no traces have a chance to survive.
Das bedeutet für Sie, Sie müssen sich jetzt so schnell wie möglich lösen vom Feind und einen Raum aufsuchen, in dem Sie sicher sind. Deshalb jetzt Eilmarsch.
First, 2 kilometers uphill with gear and weapon. A forest near the barracks serves as the staged crisis area for the commando soldiers to run through.
There are certain tasks, or rather certain things we have to do. They don't really have any deeper meaning. They're just there to put pressure on people and to stress them out. And in that moment, I just do it, as they say, by switching off my mind.
After the successful escape, Lieutenant Langfeld takes command. He is expected to demonstrate leadership qualities. The fictional enemy, however, does not rest. The best hiding place is a nearby forest. The men must work with what they have or what they can find in the underbrush. They need food, water, and most importantly, shelter. A few tarps will have to suffice as a tent. The shelter is mainly meant to serve as camouflage. They hardly get any sleep anyway.
Machst du hier nur fest und dann kannst du hier mal ziehen.
Ja, ich muss aufpassen, hier ist sehr wenig, also Spannkraft.
From now on, they will only march under the cover of dusk or at night. During the day, they will stay hidden, leaving as few traces as possible.
Here we have a fire pit, and this is a smoke distribution system. It ensures that the smoke doesn't rise straight up, making it harder to pinpoint the source, but instead spreads out more broadly. And it's adjustable, so you can position the fire here or there as needed. That's the idea behind it.
The fire pit must be well camouflaged, but still provide some warmth.
Die Feuerstelle kann viel Wärme Richtung Zelt reflektieren, aber Achtung, was haben wir eben gesagt?
Das Ausweichen ist jetzt.
Ich brauche Abmarschwege, Wege zum Ausweichen, eine zügige Möglichkeit, meine Alarmstellung zu beziehen. Das ist hier nicht gegeben. Jede Variante hat Vorteile und Nachteile. Und ich sage bestimmt nicht, das ist falsch und das ist richtig oder das ist falsch und das ist richtig. Was richtig ist und was falsch, entscheidet immer wer?
Die Situation.
Der Feind.
The enemy also dictates when the comrades get to eat. The EPA, the German military's field rations, is hardly enjoyable when cold. Therefore, Mengemann and his comrades are supposed to start a fire and bring half a liter of water to a boil. However, everyone on their own. Those who don't manage it within 20 minutes will stay hungry.
So, I have already laid out my material and prepared the fireplace a bit. And I think I'll use duct tape and shoe polish for this. That will serve as an initial fire starter. I'll use twigs and then continue to gradually add more and stronger branches until I have a good flame. I'll then try to place this directly into the flame, right on the wood, so it gets really hot.
Anything is allowed for lighting the fire. For Lieutenant Langfeld, it's a seemingly simple exercise. The 28-year-old starts by collecting spruce twigs.
That's usually enough, especially in wet conditions. If you have larger pieces of wood, it's a good idea, when you have a lot of twigs, to accomplish the task just with a twig broom.
The anticipation of a warm meal lifts his spirits.
Once the fire is burning, time is no longer an issue. But it has to catch fire first. Comrade Tiller, in a rather unromantic fashion, used a tissue to light it, and immediately it flares up. Michael Mengemann, too, can look forward to a warm meal after a short time, but for Lieutenant Langfeld, things aren't going quite as well. The painstakingly gathered twigs simply refuse to burn. The wood is wet. Then the economics graduate tries using cotton wool instead. But it only smolders. Burning looks different.
Normalerweise brennt das direkt wie Zunder. Aber hier ist mit nix.
While his comrades are already warming their water, the lieutenant is growing increasingly impatient. The wet twigs are steaming heavily, but the soup is far from boiling, and time is running out. And the lieutenant is starting to get into a bad mood. While the others are sipping their soup, the noodles with meat are being warmed up. Then the comrades enjoy their main course. Meanwhile, for Lieutenant Langfeld, it's mostly his nerves that are burning out.
Entschuldigung. Ja, ich stelle ein.
Finally, while the others are already using their hot water for washing dishes, Lieutenant Langfeld comes up with a truly brilliant idea.
I have now added shoe polish. When something burns, it helps with its oily consistency. Might have thought about it earlier as well.
Unfortunately, it's too late. Today the kitchen stays cold and the lieutenant remains hungry.
Well, that didn't go as planned. It should have worked better, but not everything always goes as you imagine. The motivation, however, remains just as high.
What the soldiers learn in the Algoy, they must apply in distant Afghanistan. Living under harsh conditions, often for months on end, is part of a soldier's everyday life.
However, in a real war, they choose the best possible accommodation, not the hardest one imaginable. The soldiers from Seedorf in Lower Saxony have settled into the police station in Char Dara, Afghanistan. They take turns doing kitchen duty.
Schmeckt ja fast wie Chinesisch, ja. Ist cool, ne? Da ist ein bisschen was von dieser Süße vom Soße drin. Ich sag ja, lass die Leute mal kochen. Hat er gut gemacht. Ja, sollten wir auf jeden Fall öfters mal machen.
Those who are already full can pass the time with weeks-old newspapers. The sleeping quarters of the German paratroopers on foreign deployment appear almost cozy compared to the shelters of the aspiring commando soldiers. Those not currently engaged on the invisible front against the Taliban can momentarily forget about grenade launchers and rifles here and focus on the more enjoyable aspects of life.
It's not like it's the first time we've lived together in such close quarters, but you get used to it. You just make the most of the time and adapt. It's all right.
And even if the mission in Afghanistan seems hopeless to most soldiers, they can still conquer the world, at least in game.
Wo ist denn Afghanistan auf der Karte?
5,000 kilometers away lies another crisis area.
Wir kommen jetzt zur Ausbildung, Verwundetentransport. Die brauchen diese Ausbildung.
One must be carried. In a real operation, how it's done depends on the severity of the injury. And here in the Algoy, the instructor decides.
Ohne Handschuhe, habe ich Handschuhe drin, rutschen die, mit reingreifen, so wie ich stehe. So, unsere Fäuste sind jetzt drin, es ist nicht gerade bequem, aber das stellt sicher, dass der Verwundete unterwegs nicht rausfällt. Hierher. Und er setzt sich jetzt ganz normal rein, weit nach hinten setzen und hält sich an unseren Schultern fest. Fertig? Er muss sich richtig hinten reinsetzen und so wird der Verwundete über mittlere Distanzen getragen. Mit Sicherheit eine Möglichkeit.
If the injured person can no longer hold on by themselves, a stretcher is needed. But unlike medics, who are always equipped with collapsible stretchers, commando soldiers must know how to help themselves in the forest.
Okay. Mit dem Rest wird unten einfach nochmal um die Füße geschlagen.
Building the stretcher is quick. Now it just needs to be carried. Who takes on the burden is decided by instructor Sebastian Sachse. Psychological stress is part of the war game.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ein Mann ist der Verwundete und ihr 2 tragt ihn. Fertig werden.
A soldier with gear, weapons, and ammunition easily weighs around 120 kilos. If several are injured at once, it becomes a real test of endurance for those still healthy. When the legs give out, a rotation takes place. The concept of camaraderie takes on a truly existential meaning here.
To make matters worse, the enemy is always lurking out there, whether imagined in the war game or very real as the instructor on site.
Of course, it starts to hurt after 100, 200 meters. Not just you, but it affected all of us. It hurts, but that's how it is. And here it all depends on firm leadership from the squad leader. We cannot afford any whining or breaks. The squad leader has to lead strictly, and there's no "I can't go on" coming from anywhere. Instead, the squad leader gives a clear and direct order. After 500 double steps, the next shift toward the station.
On the third day of their training, the scattered unit still has the invisible enemy on their heels. They must fight their way back through hostile territory to rejoin their own forces.
Marschziel, Kaserne, Altenstadt. Auf dem Kartenausschnitt, den wir haben, der Bereich mit Lager Altenstadt verbrannt. Lager Altenstadt hier in dem Bereich. Unser Marschziel, der Bereich Schellberg.
It's pouring rain. Everything is soaked. For 2 days, their clothes have practically been glued to their bodies. The men creep through the terrain, silent, almost invisible, and leaving no traces behind. Scattered on a secret mission, they are always ready to defend themselves, as the supposed enemy is always lurking somewhere out there. Comrade Tiller has to take the lead. His task is to guide the group back to the barracks. The mission, survive and arrive. Under stress, it's easy to lose one's sense of direction.
Hier, Stückkreuzung. Eigener Standort jetzt wo? Ich tritt hier hoch. Drehen sind da rum. Ja, genau. Der weiße Pfeil zeigt nach Norden. Norden ist in der Karte oben. Zack, Karte ist eingenordet. Jetzt zeigen Sie mir Ihren eigenen Standort. Nur noch so. Korrekt. Also von hier runter geht es vielleicht kürzer. Das wäre nicht nur kürzer, sondern viel Kraftsparender. Sie marschieren nämlich hier steil bergan, ja, richtig, um dann wieder abzumarschieren. Klar? Klar.
Orientation begins with knowing your own position, in the forest as in life.
The behavior patterns, the way orders and tasks are received and executed, are entirely different under physical strain than they are on a sunny barracks yard.
And it's only just starting to get uncomfortable. To avoid leaving tracks, the soldiers must repeatedly wade through the water.
Ja, nass und ein bisschen kalt und naja, mal schauen. Und dunkel.
The men resort to humor, but their combat uniforms are soaked, the gear is just as wet and getting heavier. Their boots are chafing. Slowly the march turns into an ordeal, and the training day is far from over. The course is even further from completion. Some are already asking themselves how much longer they can endure this. After 3.5 hours, the goal is almost in sight. But then Instructor Sachse, the real enemy, has one last diabolical idea.
The group is attacked again. By the instructor's decision, one comrade is severely injured in the leg. The phantom wound causes excruciating pain.
Hello, dein Überwachungsbereich, die Kreuzung. Hier, hör zu. Du, dein Überwachungsbereich, diese Richtung. Mein Bein. Was ist mit deinem Bein? Du, komm her. 2 Hölzer holen, damit wir den Verwundeten transportieren können. Verstanden? In Absprache mit dem Sicherer, der hier vorne an der Kreuzung ist. Okay? Okay. 2 Minuten, Gas. Lass die Rucksäcke hier, es dauert sonst zu lange.
The injury is treated as best as possible under the circumstances.
Am Anschlagsort können wir jetzt demnächst nicht bleiben. Wir müssen hier schnellstmöglich weg. Ja, richtig schön eng und richtig schön straff. Das ist scheiße, wenn er nachher durchhängt. Warte. Du? Jo. Du und du. Träger. Ja? Du bist auch noch Träger.
1, 2, 3.
Now their strength is truly fading. Each of the carriers has to shoulder an additional 30 kilos. The injured comrade is in constant danger of being dropped.
Hauptsache ziehen.
Komm weiter, Männer. Wir müssen beißen. Wir müssen einfach.
Some people are into pain, or so I've heard. They want to prove themselves over and over again, every single day. For me, there's always something new in my life, something I want to achieve day by day or year by year. This year it's this, the training course.
Ich übernehme kurz. Geh weg, ruh dich kurz aus. Ja, passt. Komm, beiß, Männer. Was? Schön so stehen bleiben. Warte. Wollt ihr hinten auch noch mal tauschen? Okay, weiter. Warte. Doch, tauschen. Das willst du nicht.
Junge, wir können hier nicht jeder anhalten und tauschen.
Also, wir tauschen jetzt hinten noch einmal. Hört da, vorne, zuhören. Ja? Wir tauschen jetzt hinten noch einmal. Los, hinten tauschen.
Menge. Pass mal auf. Warte.
Nein.
Ja, nimm.
Übernimm.
Nimm. Ja,
komm, Beeilung, ran jetzt an die Karre.
Gar nicht so einfach, Mensch.
Lass den nicht fallen.
Ja, ich bin kleiner. Ich habe leider ein bisschen mehr Gewicht hier.
Ich habe gesagt, hier ist Ruhe, hier diskutiert jetzt keiner. Los, nehmen die Karre auf und weiter Marsch jetzt. Los. Los, Männer. Und jetzt machen wir Meter.
Ich bin drauf.
Mach doch mal Platz hier.
Soll ich hier Platz machen?
Komm hier weg.
Carrying on until exhaustion. Everyone here has long since reached their limits, and some have gone far beyond. Now it's just about making it through, rescuing comrades, and reaching safety. And then, the first have made it. But for the injured comrade, things are about to get dangerous again.
Langsam und gleichmäßig die Warte. Langsam, Männer.
Hey! Ja, das ist da unten.
Die Balken, die Plan, die Zeltbahn wird alles mitgeführt. Rucksäcke wieder aufnehmen, dann wieder zum Parkplatz antreten.
Gib mir so ein Ding.
For me, it wasn't physically exhausting, but it was very challenging to keep the guys motivated, to ensure they stayed engaged, motivated, and participated the whole time. That was personally the hardest part for me.
What follows likely comes straight from the Leadership Handbook, Chapter Positive Motivation.
Die Leistung, die ich am heutigen Tag von Ihnen gesehen habe, war absolut in Ordnung.
After a day like this, every tough commando soldier appreciates a bit of comfort, even if it only comes from the soulless instructor.
Gruppenführer, gute Führerleistung. Der eine oder andere war mit Sicherheit hier auch schon leicht an der Grenze, aber dafür hat er in der nächsten Woche einen besseren Tag und unterstützt dann seine Kameraden. Gibt es Fragen von Ihnen zu den Bereichen Versteck und Durchschlagen? Keine? Dann Gruppenführer, Gruppe übernehmen, unterziehen, trockenlegen. Wir warten auf Alpha 2 und Alpha 3 und setzen dann den Marsch Richtung Lager Altenstadt fort.
Gut, Männer, ihr habt gehört, diese Richtung 20, unterziehen, trockenlegen, trinkt was, esst was, bereitet schon mal den Marsch ins Lager vor. Ja? War auch sehr zufrieden mit euch, sehr gut. Zack.
After the carrot comes the stick. Inevitably. Because their performance was up to par, the men now have to run the last 3 kilometers back to the barracks. Uphill, of course.
Im Laufschritt, Marsch, Marsch. Auflage, der Hörsaal läuft geschlossen.
They must complete the course in 22 minutes, or they'll have to go back to the start. The lieutenant has to lead and prove his ability to drive his men forward.
Vorne kürzer gibt's nicht, Oberleutnant. Es gibt hinten aufgehen.
It's uncomfortable when that inner weakness comes and says, I don't want to go on. But it's all the more satisfying when the week is over, the day is done, or the training is complete. And you know, yes, I did it again. I've taken another step forward, and that's where you have to draw your strength from.
Ironically, it's Lieutenant Langfeld, who was supposed to drive the group forward, who runs out of strength halfway through. Leadership, it seems, isn't solely a matter of military rank.
Hörsaal-Dienst führen! Wer nicht führt, wird geführt!
The lieutenant has to relinquish command.
You just have to keep going. It's like in life. When you face setbacks, there's no point in burying your head in the sand. You have to keep moving forward.
Männer, da oben sind wir daheim! Und Gas, Männer, Hörsaal-Dienst, komm, auf geht's! Männer, alles oder nichts jetzt! Sie haben ja keine Zeit zu marschieren! Sie haben den Auftrag und diesen führen Sie aus! Komme, was wolle! Abmarsch jetzt!
10 minutes left.
Einmal beißen noch, Männer! Einmal den Berg anbeißen! Auf geht's!
5 minutes.
Gas jetzt! Komm, ran!
3 minutes.
Mach Druck, Männer! Auf geht's! Männer, wenn wir die Zeit nicht halten, marschieren wir zurück! Männer, jetzt zählt's eure Zeit! Sektor, das hält das! Gas jetzt! Junge, lauf! Und reinbleiben! Komm, auf geht's! Komm, Gas! Hier weiter, komm, Gas! Und auf hoch!
The first men cross the finish line.
Männer, Auflage war es, 22 Minuten zu halten. Zeit auf meiner Uhr 22:05. Warum? Hörsaaldienst. Warum? Sie hatten den Auftrag, den Hörsaal am Einmarsch zu führen. Von führen konnte da gar keine Rede sein. Es funktioniert aber nur, wenn jeder hier versteht, worum es geht. Es geht um den unabdingbaren Willen zur Auftragserfüllung. Sie kriegen den Auftrag und der wird ausgeführt, egal wie. Sie müssen bereit sein, Entbehrungen zu ertragen. Hörsaaldienst übernehmen, rechtsum, Abmarsch.
Which means back to the start.
Es geht zurück, meine Herren, auf geht's!
After 17 hours of combat, orientation, and survival training, always at the physical limit, the same cross-country run is to be repeated once again. A nightmare scenario.
Wird das noch was heute?
A bitter joke. After 100 meters, the instructor puts an end to the ordeal.
All jokes aside, task was 22 minutes in total to reach the barracks gate Altenstadt. Your time, 21 minutes and 43 seconds. No question, great performance.
Auftrag ausgeführt. Hörsaal-Dienst übernehmen, übers Fußgängertor im Laufschritt Richtung 5. Inspektion. Abflug.
4 weeks of training to become a lone fighter. But after just the 3rd day, the men begin to realize whoever wants to go through hell must be devilishly good at running.